The British countryside is a place of familiar beauty, a patchwork of rolling hills, ancient woodlands and quiet streams. We know its inhabitants well, the shy badger, the cunning fox, the graceful deer. But for decades, whispers and strange tales have hinted at something else, something much larger and far more elusive lurking in the shadows. These are stories of phantom cats, sleek, powerful predators that seem utterly out of place in our gentle landscape. People from all walks of life, from farmers to police officers, have reported startling encounters with what they can only describe as big cats, panthers, pumas, and even lynxes roaming wild across the United Kingdom. It is a tantalizing and persistent mystery that refuses to go away. These sightings are not confined to one particular region. They are a nationwide phenomenon. From the rugged moorlands of Cornwall to the dense forests of Scotland, the accounts share a striking similarity. A flash of black fur streaking across a country lane at dusk. A pair of luminous green eyes staring from the edge of a field. A chilling, unfamiliar scream echoing through a valley in the dead of night. These are not the calls of our native wildlife. They are something else entirely, something that speaks of a hidden, wilder side to Britain that we rarely, if ever, get to see. The question is, are these sightings real, or are they simply tricks of the light and products of an overactive imagination? The idea of large, predatory cats living secretly amongst us is both thrilling and slightly unnerving. It challenges our perception of the British Isles as a safe and thoroughly tamed environment. Could it be possible that alongside our familiar fauna, a population of non-native carnivores has managed to survive and even thrive, completely undetected by the scientific community? This notion captures the public imagination because it taps into a deep-seated fascination with the unknown and the untamed. It suggests that even in our crowded modern world, there are still genuine mysteries left to solve right on our own doorstep, waiting to be discovered in the next patch of woodland or over the next hill. This essay will delve into this captivating enigma, exploring the stories, the evidence, and the scientific debate that surrounds Britain's alleged big cats. We will journey through the history of these sightings, examine the clues left behind, and consider the various explanations that have been put forward over the years. We will look at what the experts think and weigh the arguments for and against the existence of a secret population of felines. Is it all just a modern myth, a rural legend for the 21st century? Or could the next blurry photograph or plaster cast of a paw print finally provide the conclusive proof that we are not alone in our countryside? When we talk about big cats, we are referring to a group of powerful carnivorous mammals from the Felidae family. Scientifically, the term often refers to the 5 species in the genus Panthera: the tiger, the lion, the jaguar, the leopard, and the snow leopard. These animals are renowned for their strength, agility, and hunting prowess, and they sit at the very top of the food chain in their native habitats. One of the defining characteristics of this group is their ability to roar, a deep, guttural sound made possible by a specialized larynx and hyoid apparatus. This powerful vocalization is used to communicate over long distances, to establish territory, and to intimidate rivals. However, in the context of the sightings in the UK, the term big cat is used more broadly. It often includes other large feline species that are not in the Panthera genus, and therefore cannot roar. The puma, also known as the cougar or mountain lion, is a prime example. This powerful cat, native to the Americas, is frequently mentioned in witness reports from Britain. Another is the cheetah, the fastest land animal on Earth, known for its incredible speed and distinctive spotted coat. And we mustn't forget the lynx, a medium-sized cat with tufted ears and a short tail, which is also a recurring figure in these mysterious encounters across the country. The animals most commonly reported in the UK fall into 2 main categories based on their appearance. The first are the black panthers, which are typically large, powerfully built cats with sleek, dark coats. It is important to remember that a black panther is not a distinct species in itself. It is a melanistic variant of another cat, most commonly a leopard in Asia and Africa, or a jaguar in the Americas. Melanism is a genetic condition that results in an excess of dark pigment, giving the animal its black fur. These creatures are often described as being the size of a large dog, like a Labrador or an Alsatian, but with distinctly feline movements. The second category, often described by witnesses, are puma-like cats. These are typically described as being sandy, tan, or tawny in colour, with a long body and an equally long, thick tail. Their appearance matches that of the puma, a highly adaptable predator that can thrive in a wide range of environments, from mountains to forests. These reports of tan-coloured cats are just as common as those of black panthers, suggesting that if there are big cats in Britain, there may be more than one type. Understanding these different species is crucial when we begin to analyse the evidence and try to piece together this extraordinary puzzle. To understand the current mystery, we must first look back in time at Britain's own feline history. It might surprise many people to learn that a big cat species was once native to these very isles. This was the Eurasian lynx, a beautiful and elusive predator perfectly adapted to our ancient forests. Archaeological evidence, including bones found in caves in Scotland and Yorkshire, confirms that the lynx roamed Britain for thousands of years after the last ice age. It was a successful hunter, preying on roe deer and smaller mammals, playing a vital role in the ecosystem. Its presence is a reminder that our landscape was once much wilder than it is today. Sadly, the story of the Eurasian lynx in Britain is one of loss. It is believed that this magnificent cat was driven to extinction here around 1,300 years ago during the medieval period. The primary causes were a combination of widespread deforestation, which destroyed its habitat, and relentless hunting by humans for its valuable fur. With the loss of the lynx, Britain was left with only one native wildcat species, the Scottish wildcat, often called the Highland tiger. This small but incredibly fierce feline is now one of our rarest and most endangered mammals, confined to the remote Scottish Highlands and facing threats from hybridization with domestic cats. This means that any large cat seen in the UK today, such as a leopard, puma, or even a lynx, is considered a non-native or alien species. They do not belong here in a biological sense and have no natural place in our modern ecosystem. If they are indeed present, they must have been introduced by human activity. Their existence would be entirely separate from the ancient lineage of our native lynx. This is a crucial point as it frames the entire debate. We are not searching for a surviving relic from the past, but rather investigating the possibility of a newly established population of animals that originated from somewhere else entirely. The absence of any native big cats for over a millennium makes the modern sightings all the more intriguing and controversial. It forces us to ask a very important question: how could such animals have possibly got here? Unlike birds that can fly across continents or small mammals that might stow away on ships, a large predator like a puma or leopard could not simply arrive on our shores by chance. Their presence would have to be the result of a direct introduction, either through deliberate release or accidental escape. This human element is central to the mystery and is a key part of the puzzle we must try to solve. The story of Britain's phantom cats is not a new one. It is a tapestry woven from countless eyewitness accounts, stretching back over many decades. Reports truly began to surge in the 1960s and 1970s, gradually building from isolated incidents into a nationwide phenomenon. One of the earliest and most famous cases was the Surrey puma, which sparked a media frenzy in the 1960s. Dozens of people in the county reported seeing a large tan-coloured cat, and the sightings were so credible that the police even conducted organised searches. Although no puma was ever caught, the legend took hold and set the stage for many similar events to come across the country. Each region seems to have its own local legend, its own resident beast. In the north of England, people speak of the Beast of Cumbria and the Beast of Bolam Lake. In Scotland, the Galloway puma has been the subject of numerous reports for years. Down in the southwest, the tales are perhaps the most famous of all, with Cornwall and Devon being particular hotspots for sightings of panther-like creatures. These are not just fleeting glimpses. Witnesses often provide detailed descriptions of the animal's size, colour and behaviour, describing how they move with a low, silent, and predatory grace that is completely different from that of a domestic cat or a dog. The consistency of these reports is one of the most compelling aspects of the phenomenon. A farmer in Aberdeenshire and a dog walker in Kent might, years apart, describe an almost identical animal, a large black cat bigger than an Alsatian, with a very long tail that curls at the end. They often speak of the animal's powerful muscular build and the unnerving intensity of its gaze. Many witnesses express a sense of shock and disbelief, stating that they know what they saw but can scarcely believe their own eyes. This recurring pattern of similar descriptions from independent, credible sources is what keeps the mystery alive and prevents it from being easily dismissed as mere fantasy. In more recent years, technology has added a new layer to these tales. The rise of smartphones and dashcams means that people are now more likely to try and capture what they see. While many of these images and videos are frustratingly blurry or inconclusive, they continue to fuel the debate. A recent report might involve a driver capturing a few seconds of footage of a large dark shape crossing a remote road at night, or a walker taking a long-distance photograph of an animal in a field that seems too large to be a normal cat. Each new piece of footage, however ambiguous, adds another thread to the rich and complex story of Britain's wild big cats. Perhaps no case better illustrates the enduring mystery of Britain's big cats than the legend of the beast of Bodmin Moor. This story brought the phenomenon to national attention in the early 1990s, and honestly, it remains one of the most famous examples to this day. Centred on the wild and atmospheric landscape of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, a wave of sightings and reports of livestock killings created, well, a bit of a media storm. Farmers were losing sheep to an unknown predator, with carcasses found exhibiting injuries that just weren't consistent with attacks by dogs or foxes. The wounds suggested a much larger and more powerful carnivore was at work. The situation became so serious that in 1995 the government actually ordered an official investigation. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, often called MAF, commissioned a team of scientists to conduct a thorough study of the evidence. They analysed photographs, plaster casts of paw prints, and video footage, and they examined the remains of livestock that had been attacked. The anticipation for their findings was immense. Many people believed that this would be the moment when the existence of big cats in Britain would finally be officially confirmed, putting an end to decades of speculation and anecdotal reports from across the country. The results of the MAF investigation, however, were deeply anticlimactic for believers. The official report concluded that there was no verifiable evidence of a big cat living on Bodmin Moor. The scientists suggested that the livestock deaths were likely caused by more common animals, and they dismissed the photographic evidence as inconclusive. Yet, the report contained a fascinating and often overlooked statement. It also concluded that there was no evidence to prove that a big cat was not present, and stated that the ministry could not rule out the possibility that such an animal might be at large, acknowledging the mystery was far from solved. Despite the official verdict, the legend of the beast of Bodmin Moor has persisted. Just a few weeks after the government report was published, a young boy discovered a large cat skull near the River Fowey. The skull, about 4 inches wide and 7 inches long, was sent to the Natural History Museum in London for analysis. Experts confirmed that it belonged to a young male leopard. However, they also found that the cat had not died in the wild in Britain. Analysis of the skull showed it had been imported as part of a leopard skin rug. For many, this was a disappointing dead end, but for others, it was just one more strange twist in a story that refuses to die. When we move beyond eyewitness accounts, we enter the realm of physical evidence. This is where the case for Britain's big cats must stand or fall. Over the years, a variety of potential clues have been presented, each one scrutinised by both believers and skeptics. The most common form of evidence is, of course, photographic and video footage. We have all seen them, the grainy, long-distance shots of a dark shape in a field, or the blurry video of a creature darting across a road. While some of these are compelling at first glance, they often fail to hold up under close expert analysis, frequently being identified as large domestic cats or even dogs, with perspective and distance playing tricks on the eye. Another significant type of evidence comes in the form of footprints or pug marks. Enthusiasts and amateur investigators have found and made plaster casts of large paw prints that they believe could only have been made by a non-native cat. Some of these prints are impressively large and clearly feline in nature. However, proving their origin is incredibly difficult. The substrate in which the print is made, soft mud, sand, or snow, can distort its size and shape. A print from a large domestic cat or even a dog can spread out in soft ground, making it appear much larger and more exotic than it actually is, leading to frequent cases of misidentification. Perhaps the most visceral and disturbing evidence comes from livestock kills. Farmers have reported finding sheep, lambs, and even young cattle killed in a manner that seems typical of a large feline predator. The carcasses sometimes show signs of a clean, powerful bite to the neck or throat, and the animal may have been partially eaten in a specific way, with the predator consuming the nutrient-rich organs first. Some carcasses have even been found apparently dragged and hidden or buried under foliage, a behavior characteristic of cats like pumas. While these attacks are deeply distressing for the farmers, they provide some of the most suggestive evidence that an unusual predator is active in the area. Finally, there is the more unusual evidence, such as hair, droppings, also known as scat, and scratch marks on trees. On rare occasions, tufts of hair have been recovered from fences or bushes near a sighting, and scat has been collected for analysis. In a few instances, DNA testing has been carried out on these samples. While most tests have come back inconclusive or identified the sample as belonging to a known animal like a dog or a fox, there have been a handful of intriguing results. One famous test on hares found in Devon allegedly came back with a positive match for leopard DNA, though the findings remain highly debated and unverified by the wider scientific community. If we entertain the idea that big cats are indeed roaming the British countryside, we must address the fundamental question of how they got here. The most widely accepted explanation centres on the Dangerous Wild Animals Act of 1976. Before this law was passed, it was surprisingly fashionable and perfectly legal for people to keep exotic animals, including pumas, leopards and lynxes, as private pets. The new act introduced strict and expensive licensing requirements, forcing owners to provide secure, purpose-built enclosures for their animals. It is widely believed that rather than pay for these new measures, some owners simply and illegally release their animals into the wild. This theory provides a plausible origin story for a small, scattered population of big cats in the late 1970s and early 1980s. These released animals would have been adaptable and resourceful, and the British countryside, with its abundant deer, rabbits and pheasants, would have provided a ready source of food. A puma from the Americas or a leopard from Asia could certainly survive and perhaps even thrive in our temperate climate. This explanation accounts for the initial surge in sightings during that period and suggests that the animals seen today could be the descendants of these original escapees, forming a small, elusive breeding population. Of course, we must also consider the possibility of misidentification. This is the explanation favoured by most skeptics and many wildlife experts. The human eye is not a perfect camera, and in poor light, at a distance or during a fleeting glimpse, it is very easy to mistake one animal for another. A very large domestic cat, particularly a dark-coloured one, can appear much bigger than it really is. Similarly, a black Labrador dog moving through long grass could be mistaken for a panther. Even native wildlife, like a muntjac deer disappearing into the undergrowth, could be misidentified in a moment of surprise. This undoubtedly accounts for a significant proportion of reported sightings. A third possibility is that we are dealing with a combination of factors. It is conceivable that a few genuine big cats, escaped from private collections or circuses over the years, do exist in the wild. These isolated individuals could be responsible for the most credible sightings and the unusual livestock kills. At the same time, the publicity and folklore surrounding these genuine cases could then fuel a wider phenomenon of misidentification, where people are more inclined to interpret any unusual animal they see as a potential big cat. This would create a complex picture where myth and reality are intertwined, making it incredibly difficult to separate the genuine sightings from the imagined ones. When we turn to the mainstream scientific and wildlife community, the consensus is largely one of skepticism. Most biologists and ecologists argue that if a viable breeding population of big cats existed in the UK, we would have found definitive, irrefutable proof by now. In today's world of ubiquitous camera traps, high-resolution smartphone cameras, and advanced DNA analysis techniques, a secretive population of large predators would find it incredibly difficult to remain completely hidden. The lack of a clear, verifiable photograph, a body, or unambiguous DNA evidence is, for many scientists, the most compelling argument against their existence. Experts point to the ecological requirements of such animals. A breeding population, even a small one, would need a significant number of individuals to remain genetically healthy. This population would leave undeniable signs of its presence. We would expect to find a consistent pattern of prey kills across their territory, and their remains would eventually be discovered. A big cat hit by a car, for example, would be headline news and provide the body that has so far been missing. Scientists argue that the complete absence of such a discovery over so many decades makes the existence of a widespread population highly improbable. Furthermore, many professional ecologists who spend thousands of hours working in the field, often at night and in remote locations, have never seen any convincing evidence of big cats. These are trained observers who know how to spot animal tracks and signs. They regularly use camera traps to monitor populations of badgers, deer, and other wildlife. The fact that these cameras, which are active for millions of hours across the country every year, have not captured a single clear image of a leopard or puma is considered very strong negative evidence. If the cats were there, experts argue, they would have been photographed by now. However, not all experts completely dismiss the possibility. Some acknowledge that the sheer volume of eyewitness reports, particularly from reliable individuals like police officers and experienced farmers, is difficult to ignore entirely. They might concede that isolated individuals, lone escapees, could potentially survive for years in the wild, accounting for some of the most compelling sightings and evidence. The debate often comes down to the difference between a few solitary animals and a self-sustaining population. While science demands proof, and that proof remains elusive, a small number of experts maintain an open mind, agreeing that the countryside can always hold surprises. So, after decades of whispers, stories, and investigations, where do we stand on the question of Britain's wild big cats? The truth is, we remain in a fascinating state of limbo, caught between compelling anecdotal evidence and a stark lack of scientific proof. On one hand, we have thousands of sincere and often detailed eyewitness accounts from credible people, backed up by tantalizing but ultimately inconclusive physical traces like paw prints and curious livestock kills. These stories paint a picture of an elusive predator that has somehow managed to carve out a niche for itself in our modern landscape, a ghost of the wilderness. On the other hand, the wall of scientific skepticism is high and built on solid ground. The complete absence of a body, a crystal-clear photograph, or indisputable DNA evidence is a powerful counter-argument. In a country as densely populated and surveyed as the UK, it seems almost impossible that a population of large carnivores could exist without leaving a single, undeniable trace for scientists to find. The principles of ecology and probability are stacked against the existence of a breeding population, suggesting that misidentification and folklore are the most likely explanations for the vast majority of reports. Yet, the mystery endures because it speaks to a desire for wildness in a world that often feels too tame. The idea that a creature as magnificent and powerful as a leopard or a puma could be living just beyond the glow of our towns and cities is incredibly appealing. It suggests that nature is resilient and can still hold deep secrets. The phantom cat is a symbol of the untamed world, a reminder that not every corner of our island has been fully mapped, catalogued and understood. This romantic notion is perhaps why the story refuses to fade away, regardless of the scientific consensus. Will we ever solve the riddle of Britain's big cats? Perhaps one day a walker will stumble upon the undeniable proof we have all been waiting for, or maybe a perfectly positioned trail camera will finally capture that one clear, unambiguous image that changes everything. Until that day comes, the tales will continue, passed down in pubs and on local forums, becoming a unique and enduring part of modern British folklore. The question remains, are they just stories? Or is there, somewhere out there in the twilight, a pair of feline eyes watching us? A silent and secret inhabitant of Britain's wild heart?